chart and introduce you to the public consulting group team who's working on this cost study with ECECD. We will go through an overview of the project, so the cost study itself. Then we'll delve specifically into the time study in a section I've called Time Study 101, essentially just, general information, background, hopefully bringing you all up to speed on the time study overall. Then we'll go into the time study tool itself, demonstrating screenshots and how to complete that tool, as well as a live demonstration that I mentioned of the Excel-based tool itself. And then at the end, we'll go through some next steps and wrap up to let you all know what to expect. And as a significant portion of that last section, that's where we'll do a live question and answer session with all of you. So just as a heads up, this recording is, this training is being recorded, just so you all know. All right, introductions. So we are working closely with ECECD, specifically the FIT program there, but also some of their executive leadership overall. And then we have the public consulting group team. And so public consulting group is a management consulting firm. We've contracted with ECECD to conduct this cost study. And so this is the team of folks from PCG who are working on the time study, the cost study. You see there at the top, the engagement manager, Sarah Salisbury. She is responsible for the contract management piece of this, really making sure that we do everything that we say we're going to do within the contract. Then the next person there is the project manager, and that's me. I'm Greg Moore. I'm a senior consultant with Public Consulting Group. I've been with PCG approximately 8 months, but I have over 20 years of experience in project and program administration, leadership, continuous quality improvement, in early intervention, as well as child welfare and multiple other areas of human services. And so from my name down, it's really the core project team who are working on this, day in and day out. We have our lead analyst, Amanda Dunlap, who's on here. And then we have a team of analysts who's working with her and with us. Margot Hoagland, who is actually also kind of serving in a lead analyst role based on her expertise, as well as Courtney Reed and Shelby Neely. We have Ted Lindsay, who's an accountant working with us. And then we have an advisory team of various subject matter experts, including Andy Gom, who you see there listed at the top. He's my co-facilitator today. Many of you with the, as FIT practitioners and FIT provider agencies will recognize Andy. He was previously the FIT chief. And so we're glad to have his expertise lended to this project. Two other subject matter expertise are Joe Carbo and Zane Wyrick, both of whom have years and years of experience in rate setting, fiscal analysis, and they are assets to our team as well. So we are very excited to be working on this project and to be working with each of you. So now I want to briefly go through the project overall, just so you all understand how the time study fits into this and, on what we're asking you to work. So the purpose, ECECD has put out a solicitation. They've contracted with Public Consulting Group to implement a comprehensive cost study of the Family Infant Toddler program, specifically to determine if FIT providers are reimbursed at a reasonable standard rate by the state of New Mexico in relation to the market for similar services, as well as the associated costs of service provision of these FIT services, and then also to propose new rates for FIT services. So we will be capturing lots of information, making recommendations to the department based on all of the information that we capture in the analysis of said information. And then, of course, the department can accept all, some, or none of the recommendations, but we have come up with a sound methodology to really be able to arrive at some solid conclusions here, and that's where we need all of your help on the time study. So what are the goals of the project? The goals of the project, obviously, to implement the comprehensive cost study, of the cost of delivering early intervention services provided through the FIT program. I kind of already touched on that when I went through the purpose, but specifically here, ECECD wants that this cost study is going to promote best practices in early intervention. It will support the recruitment and retention of qualified early intervention staff, and it will provide an assessment of the budget impact of implementing any recommended rates that PCG puts forth. So this here are the three primary components of the cost study, and there's some other elements of that. You'll hear pieces of it as we talk through, but these are really the three big pieces. And so first we have the time study. This is where we're asking you all to participate in this time study. We're going to be using an Excel-based time study tool that will be completed by all FIT practitioners, so all of you and all your colleagues. We're asking that folks capture all of the time that they work on early intervention services and early intervention related tasks during 10 scheduled work days during the time study period. And so the time study period is a 3-week period beginning Sunday. And the time study is going to be used to align expenses with services delivered based on the current rate structure. The next big component is a cost report. It specifically includes a cost instrument and a personnel roster, both of which are Excel-based tools. And these will be completed by all FIT provider agencies. And so rather than having you all as direct service practitioners completing this, this is where the fiscal staff in your agencies, the administrators will complete these tools. The cost instrument is going to capture revenue, personnel expenses, as well as other expenses that are associated with providing FIT services within a fiscal year. The personnel roster is going to capture information about all of the employees and subcontractors that deliver early intervention services for a specific agency. And these tools will allow us to understand the true cost of FIT service delivery. And then lastly, that third component there that I've entered is a market analysis. And so this is where PCG is going to be conducting market research of salaries for professions within the FIT service definitions and standards. And PCG will use this information to inform our rate calculations by establishing an understanding of the salaries in the market for similar early intervention services. So all of these, we're gathering all of this information, which we'll use to roll up and analyze and put forward into some recommendations for ECECD. So the project work plan and timeline. This here, what you're going to see there is beginning over on the left with stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder engagement started early on. We've been at this since April, really, some of the initial stages of the project, and are now at the phase where, of course, we've been reaching out to providers and practitioners to prepare you all. We're going through some trainings, but we're going to be entering in the actual cost study itself. So the time study, the cost report, rather. And so what you see there is that with stakeholder engagement, we're engaging with all kinds of stakeholders, but we have a FIT cost study advisory group, which is made up of various FIT providers that we communicate with and meet with regularly to get their input on our approach, our methodology for this cost study, as well as the tools that we're developing. And then as we go through, we'll be discussing with them some of the things that we're seeing and finding, and really using their input to make sure that we have a comprehensive, effective cost study. We're here now, you see that third phase, provider training. That's what we're doing today. Y'all are the first of our trainings this week. We appreciate you all for being here. We'll provide these trainings, and then before we get into the actual cost report, we'll provide training to the folks who will be completing that on those respective tools as well. Then beginning Sunday is when the time study period starts. Again, this is where we're asking all FIT practitioners to complete this time study tool for at least 10 consecutive working days during the time study period. You can see there that time study period is August 14th through September 3rd. Once we get through the time study, we go straight into the cost report, where we'll be capturing all of that personnel information as well as expense and cost data. And then you see there that last phase is where we're doing our analysis, establishing our findings and our recommendations, presenting those to ECECD and any other audiences which are needed. All right, so that's the project overall. Today, we're here specifically for a time study training. That's why I went through some of that background kind of quickly. So this next section is Time Study 101. Let's introduce you all to the time study before we actually get into the tool itself. So an overview of the time study. What is a time study? A time study measures the amount of time spent performing direct service as well as administrative activities. For this specific time study, we're asking that practitioners record all time spent on early intervention activities during 10 consecutive working days within a 3-week period. So why are we conducting a time study? The time study will allow us to allocate costs based on service activities and capture necessary administrative services that can be included in rate calculations. So it really allows you all, as the folks who are the boots on the ground doing the work, to report to us how you're spending your time, so that rather than using estimates or anything like that, that we're actually using real data from the field on the amount of time that you all spend on all of the various activities that you do as part of your jobs. Again, 10 consecutive scheduled working days during the 21-day period between Sunday, August 14th and Saturday, September 3rd, and we are conducting training sessions this week for the time study. And who? This is a very important question. So all fit practitioners who provide early intervention services, including salaried staff and independent contractors, should complete the time study. One of the things we'll get into in a little bit is that if you happen to work for more than one fit provider agency and are participating in the time study, we're going to ask that you complete a time study tool for each agency, just so that we can keep those things clear and separate. And then the last question there is the how. So how are we going to capture this, the time that you all are spending on all this? We're going to be using an Excel-based tool called the time study tool that we'll dig into here in a little bit, but we've made it as streamlined and as intuitive as possible, using pick lists and various things, where you will actually go into this Excel tool, enter your time, enter your activities, and we're going to show you how coming up. So what we've asked is that we've been communicating with the leadership of the fit provider agencies and some with the time study champions already. We've asked that each agency identify 1 to 3 champions for us to use, that PCG can partner with, that you all as practitioners can partner with within your agency, to help ease this process a little bit for you all. So that first bullet there, distribution and submission. We'll use one Excel template that will be sent via email to all fit practitioners by agency champions. So what do I mean by that? So we as Public Consulting Group, we're going to provide an electronic copy of the Excel template to all of the provider agencies, all of the champions. Then it will be those champions, it'll be your agency that will then send the documents directly to you. So the time study tool, how you're going to be capturing your information, that will come from your champion or your supervisor. Then the submission, so sending it back to PCG, we'll be using a secure file transfer protocol so that everything is secure. We will be issuing logins to all of the champions for this SFTP, and what the champions will then do is that they will upload all of the time study tools that they capture for their agency into this secure file transfer protocol, so that we can receive them. So there's not going to be any emailing or anything like that. Hopefully each of you is going to have one contact within your agency that you'll be able to work with in submitting your tool back to them. Quality assurance is an important component of this. process. And so we've identified 2 critical steps here of the QA process by you all as FIT practitioners, but then also by the champions. So as participants in the time study, we ask that each of you all check the tool for accuracy before you submit it to your champion. So when you get done with recording your 10 days or however many days of the work that you've done, and as you're going, you'll want to check and make sure that there aren't fields that are left blank that should be completed. You'll want to make sure that you're entering your time on the right date tabs and things like that. We'll show some examples of that here in a little bit, but that's where you all, as the participants, can help with the QA process. Then once you all as participants complete your time study tool and submit that to your champion, then we're asking the champions to go through and do a similar QA process. Again, just checking to make sure that there's no missing fields, that the participants have signed and dated their time study tool, those types of things. And then lastly there, we're talking about tracking submissions. And so we, PCG, will follow up with any provider agencies that we don't hear back from. And then also, as necessary, as we're going through our QA process and verifying data, things like that, we'll reach out to champions and to help coordinate with you all if we have questions about specific time study tools or, clarifying certain entries. Again, our goal is just to make sure that we capture accurate information that is usable, that really accurately captures all of the hard work that y'all are doing each and every day. So resources, there are a number of resources available to you all as you participate in the time study. You see there that top line there. One thing to remember is that you're not alone. So all FIT practitioners will be filling out the time study tool. And so when you have questions, we're providing several resources as to how you can get answers. First, these live training sessions. Y'all made it here today. Thank you so much. I know how busy you are providing services to clients as well as your myriad other functions. And so we appreciate you making time to be here with us, as well as making time to participate in this time study. So of course, there's the live training sessions. Following this week, once we get into the time study period itself, so August 14th through September 3rd, PCG, we're going to host live office hours each week. What that means is that every Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time, we will log onto a Teams meeting like this. It'll be myself as well as some others from our team, potentially Andy, Margot, Amanda. You'll see some familiar faces if you log in, where the primarily geared towards the champions, but anybody can log in and during that time and ask questions in real time. And so if there's a question on how to fill out a certain element of the time study tool, or somebody needs some help with some examples or how to capture information, we'll be there live like this to help do so. A training recording. So as I mentioned at the top of this call, we're recording each of these trainings, and then we will make sure that one of the live trainings, a recording rather, of one of the live trainings is made available to you all so that you can go back and reference that if you want to. Again, I know how busy you are. You may not have time to go back and watch a video, but certainly any practitioners that can't participate in the trainings or anybody that wants to go back and view that, y'all will be able to do so. The champions, I've talked about them before, so I'll just be brief there. Again, those are going to be folks directly in your agency who are going to be assets to you all as you're completing the time study, but then of course assets to us too, and that they will be submitting the completed tools to us once you all's teams are done. We're establishing a FIT cost study website. We have a draft of that. I entered coming soon right there. It'll be published this week and make it available to everyone. It'll be a public facing website. And on there, it will include for example, the time study tool instructions. So there's going to be a detailed instruction document on how to complete the time study tool. A copy of these PowerPoint slides will be posted there. Pretty much any resource that we're developing, we're going to post there on that website. In addition, we'll be emailing the stuff to the champions too to make it easier on them as well. A list of frequently asked questions. One of the things that we like to do when we conduct time studies like this is to maintain a document that includes a running list of frequently asked questions. And so what I mean by that is that at the end of the last part of the training today, we're going to have a question and answer session. Undoubtedly, y'all will ask some great questions. The questions that we get from that, as well as questions that we get from practitioners in other settings, such as the office hours, we will keep a document updated and readily made available to you all so that you can see what questions others are asking, and you can reference that, whenever questions arise. Again, the training PowerPoint, we'll make that available. A printable tool. So we are creating and we'll be posting a PDF, which you all can then go in and print, that will be a user-friendly printable guide for you, that as you're going throughout the course of your day, if you want to jot notes on it, such as the time when you start an activity, what that activity may be, those types of things, to assist you in completing the time study, because Lord knows that y'all are busy. And so if you sit down at the end of the day or the next day, it may take some time or be hard to remember everything you did. If it's helpful to you to have a printable tool so you can take notes throughout the day and document your activities, we're going to provide you with that tool so that you can do so. Email support, we've established an email where you can contact us directly. That email address is nmfitcoststudy@pcgus.com. You see it listed there. Folks can email that at any time with any questions, and myself and others will be monitoring those emails and responding within one business day, certainly as soon as possible, but often much sooner than that. And then lastly, there, feel free to use each other as supports. Again, we're all in this together. All right, so the time study tool. You're going to see that the time study tool, again, it's an Excel workbook. It's got a cover page that you all will complete, and then certain information from that covers page will populate into daily activity tabs. And so I told you the time study period is August 14th through September 3rd. We've created a separate tab or worksheet for each of those days. So there's a tab labeled 8/14, 8/15, 8/16. And so you'll complete the cover sheet. And then for every day that you're planning on recording your time as part of the time study, then you go in and complete that corresponding worksheet. We'll show you an example here soon. It's specifically what we mean. But I thought that was just key to highlight here at the beginning. Again, if you work for multiple agencies, please keep a version of this time study tool for each agency. Then if you do not work 10 days during the 3-week period for a given agency, you'll just fill out the time study tool for the days that you do work. And so one question that comes up is that, I'm part-time and I only, provide services 10 hours a month. Well, then you would document all of your time. One of the main points about including that bullet in this comment is that I don't want anybody to think that if just because you're not working 10 days during that time study period that you don't need to record your time. We want to know. We want to know all of the time that you work. And again, we are including daily tabs for weekend dates as well. So if you are working on a Saturday or Sunday, please feel free to record that time. That helps us to really get a firm sense on the time that folks are spending on these activities, so that it can inform the cost study. What you see here is a screenshot of the cover page, the top of the cover page rather. That top information includes contact and support information. So it's got some background information for you, but then it's also got some instructions on how to reference the instructions, and it includes the New Mexico Fit Cost Study email address too. You see there listed the time study period. Underneath there, once you've gone through the time study, you know the days that you're recording your time on, we ask that you go through, and those are each radio buttons. You can go in and it's just a little check mark. You click it, it puts an X there, and that way it lists for you which days you're recording your time. Then we have provider and program information. So the FIT provider agency name, that's a drop-down menu. We've included as many drop-down lists as possible for you all to make it as easy on you all as possible, because we know this is an additional burden for you. You'll include the program name if it's different. You'll include the name of your champion as well as that individual's email. Directly below this, again, the cover page is all one page, but we broke up the screenshots so that they're more clear to you all in this sort of training format. Couple of notes there at the top of the page. If you work for multiple agencies, please use the same participant name for each time study tool. That helps us. My legal name is Gregory Moore. I go by Greg Moore. If I put Gregory Moore on one time study tool for one agency and Greg Moore on the other, there'd be some question there. So for this example, I would just enter Greg Moore on any time study tools that I was completing. And then if you work for multiple counties for an agency, we ask that you check all counties that apply. So you'll see here this section entitled Participant Information. We're going to have you enter your name, the staff type. So are you an employee, a subcontractor? Are you serving multiple agencies? That county drop down there, that's where you will list a singular county, but we give you the option down here to list multiple. You'll include your title and all these other fields. And then below at the bottom, you see participant credentials. And this is where you're going to go in and enter your years of experience, your educational level, and any certifications and licensures that you may have. And then fortunately, one of the ways that we've tried to make this as user-friendly as possible is that there are pertinent fields from this cover page that once you enter them here, they will populate into all of the other tabs of the time study tool, so you don't have to re-enter them. So for example, your name, Greg Moore, when I type that here, then on all of those daily activity tabs, it lists Greg Moore at the top, so that you're only entering your name one time. So here I am, I'm talking about the daily activity tabs. We're going to get into those in just a second, because I think those are some of the areas about which you'll be most interested, because that's where you'll be recording your actual time. But just real quick before we get there, we're going to ask at the bottom of the cover page that you indicate your working relationship with the agency, that you record how many billable hours in a typical week that you work for the agency. And then at the bottom there, we ask that, so once you've completed the time study, you've gone through, and as the participant, you've done that QA that I talked about at the top of the call, that you're going to go through, you're going to sign and date it. And it's real easy to do that. You're just going to type in your name and on that line there, you're going to type your name in the date signed line. We will count that as your electronic signature. So, all right. So now that's the cover page. You'll see here that now we're going to move into the daily activity tabs, and to give you all some switch up, and so that you don't have to hear solely from me the whole time, I'm gonna hand it over to Andy and let him talk you through these daily activity tabs.
Thanks, Greg. And hello to everyone on the call. Am I echoing? Can anyone just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down? It was echoing. It was echoing. Looks like it's rectified itself. So good to see everybody. So a lot of names, colleagues from the FIT program who I used to work with as the director of the program for close to 20 years. So great to see a lot of familiar faces, and have been working with some of you as part of the advisory group. So good to see some of you joining the call. So I'll continue from where Greg left off. Some of this is reiterating things he's already pointed out. So as he said, there is a tab for each day. this is what that tab looks like at the top, and it will make more sense, I think, when you see it on the Excel page. And as he said already, that those will be auto-populated. So Greg, if you could go to the next page. So one thing we wanted to point out is a few places where we have changed things since the time study the PCG conducted for New Mexico FIT program. I think it was close to 5 years ago in 2017. So one of them was that we have actual dates on each tab. We used to ask for 10 days. We now actually have the days with a date for each of the tab. We'll show that to you in a few minutes when we go to the Excel page. Here's another one, and we wanted to be, and we've worked with the advisory committee to make sure that these tools reflect the different ways in which fitness provide services. Greg said, folks are working non-traditional hours, but sometimes that looks like not just working some days or working weekends, working evenings, but sometimes people are flexing times in the day. So maybe someone takes a few hours off during the afternoon, does personal business, whatever you do in that time, because you're going to be seeing a couple of families in the evening. Maybe you only work afternoons. Maybe you have a different job that you do, or maybe you're an administrator and we're not collecting your administrative time. We're only collecting the part-time that you do as a direct service practitioner. So one of the ways that the time study tool is different to 5 years ago, and I know we have some people that were here with us 5 years ago, is rather than having the actual hours of the day in 15-minute units from something like 6 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, and then people thinking, oh, if I take a block during the day, I have to enter my time and justify why I took some time off in the afternoon. Or maybe that's just what you do on Wednesdays because you have 2 families you're serving in the evening. So you'll see, and we'll show you again and do a little demonstration on the Excel sheet. We now just, and it's actually a little bit similar to the FIT kids documentation. We're just saying, when did you start and when did you finish that activity? And the Excel sheet, and again, we'll demo it, enters the time that you took for that activity. So again, really trying to be flexible, knowing that people's work schedules are very different. With all of the data entry, and we'll show you this, they are drop downs that helps with consistency of data entry, and we have some of our data analysts here, and consistent data. We don't want to be rejecting any data that you collect for us based on data that's not consistent. So the drop downs allow us for consistency. So I think next slide, Greg. So let's move into the activities. And Greg alluded to this, but one of the main reasons for a time study is we could get from Fit Kids all the direct service time because that's already being entered for billing. What we don't know is all of the non-direct or indirect or other administrative activities that go into providing FIT services, all of what we sometimes refer to as unbillable time. And so you'll see in a minute examples of those, and we've again worked with the advisory committee in trying to be as exhaustive as possible to capture all of those non-billable hours. And that, again, that's one of the main reasons for doing this time study, is to capture all of that time. So what we've done in the Excel, and again, we'll demonstrate it in a minute, is that's one of the first things that you select. So am I traveling or doing prep time, or I'm on training for this afternoon? What am I doing that's maybe an indirect service? And once you select that, it will black out or gray out the direct services in the green columns and direct you over to the indirect columns. Vice versa, if you're doing direct services, you're actually working with a child and family, then when you select that direct service, it will gray out the indirect services. So it's just one way of really trying to help practitioners, trying to help you all think, am I directly working with a child and family, or is this an indirect service that's supporting the work that I do with a child and family? So next slide, Greg. So the direct early intervention services, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This should make a lot of sense for you. Here's the FIT services, which are, of course, in line with IDEA Part C. Should be no concerns or questions there. Location and method. Hopefully, the way that your agency has you document on a daily log or whatever you progress log, whatever you call it, in your agency, these categories make sense. This is what's being entered into FIT Kids. So administrators and managers definitely know these terms. If these are not terms, we don't have time to, on this training, to go into what's the difference between an inclusive provider location or a developmental disabilities provider. Basically, one is an inclusive provider as opposed to another provider setting where it's majority of children with disabilities. But these are the locations and methods. Again, we don't have a lot of time to go into the difference between transdisciplinary team consultation that happens between IFSP team members and collaborative consultation, which is generally with folks in the community that you're collaborating with, either CYFD or the physician or other collaborative activities that are happening. Again, if you have questions about that, might be worth talking at a staff meeting about making sure that everyone on the team is understanding those if you're not using those already on your service log. Then county is the county here. Greg talked about which counties you generally work in, as well as a list of counties. But because one of the things we're looking at is, are the costs more in a very rural county as opposed to an urban county, one of the data points we want to make sure we collect is, where are these services taking place? Is it indeed taking a lot longer to travel, which one would kind of deduce that in rural settings, rural county, frontier counties, that travel would be more. So capturing the county where the service takes place is important. And one thing we've added to the time study, partly with input from the ECECD team and the advisory committee, is, are there some additional costs associated with providing bilingual services? So here we'd like you to just indicate with a simple yes, no. Were you using your bilingual abilities as part of this service that you were providing for that period of time? So next slide, please. So here's where we're, again, really important for us to capture all of the time in a day and in the 10 days that you're going to be capturing, or more if you want to give us more than 10 days. What are the indirect activities? And a pretty comprehensive list of all the things. And again, we got a lot of input into here. There is an other admin activity if there's something that's not on this list to capture. And again, once you select indirect or other activities, this list will become available to you. I would say, it is helpful for us to understand, particularly when it comes to things like no-shows and things like that. But if you're trying to work out, exactly what this training should be listed under, you'll see that training and professional development is listed there, or was this really a training that I was at, or was it really a staff meeting? Don't spend too long, or don't worry about talking to your supervisor, whether it's a staff meeting or training. Just pick one. Greg, I think we have some examples on the next page, so that might be helpful to take a look at. So here's just some examples, and you'll get the opportunity to see these. But email and telephone, we do have a differentiation with the client family or staff. So just to separate out those, are these coordination or working with a family? We are interested to find out how much of that is happening post-pandemic, post-telehealth. Are people doing a lot more coaching of families or following up with families in between? That's sort of a non-billable right now, but how much of that is actually happening, as well as the work that's happening with staff, coordinating things with other staff on your team. No-shows, similarly, and missed sessions, we have separated this out by both the things that might have happened because of the family that led to the no-show or cancellation, as well as examples of when that could have been on the staff side. Now, we realize that it's capturing when that time isn't filled with something else. So we are looking at other ways to capture no-shows and the cost associated. But if a family cancels and you're now seeing another family, you would be entering the actual time. So sometimes this is actually when you showed up, you're at the family's door, you see the curtains rustle, but the family doesn't answer, and really there's no way to see another family at that point. It's time that's non-billable at that point. As I said, we do have another admin activity for things that you can't fit into any of the other categories that we've provided. Supervision, may be worth just spelling out that it is both supervision. If you're a supervisor and a part of your week or day is supervising others on your team, I guess coaching would probably be included, or reflective supervision there also, as well as if you were the person, if you are a practitioner and you're in supervision, whatever that supervision looks like at that time. And then we finally have a category just to be able to capture the actual time taken up with doing the time study. We know it will take some time of your day. We're hoping that it's not, and we have some tips of how to get that completed. But anyway, you can capture the time actually completing the time study. Next slide, please. So just a couple of notices about the Excel. We have had some questions already about can we use Google Sheets or Apple Numbers. We use Google for everything in our agency. You can. We will have some information about how to do that in the FAQs. They're pretty detailed with screenshots. We are asking, however, that if you are an agency or maybe you just have a few practitioners who just don't use Microsoft and are wedded to Apple Numbers or Google Sheets, that it isn't hard to convert it. We are asking, however, that it be converted back. It's basically a save as function to get it back to Excel, that when it's submitted to us, because of we're combining all of the data into a massive database, that it comes back in Excel. We are asking also that no personal information, that's particularly important in the notes. I forgot to say that we do have a note section. We're not looking for you to justify your time or write copious notes, but if you think that there's something that could really help us, there is a note column. But if you don't have any notes for us, that's fine too. Don't feel like you have to write a lot of notes. It really is just if something's confusing, or you think we might be confused in looking at the data, you might be able to spell it out for us in the note section. But no personally identifiable information, please. So I think with that, we're going to move into a demonstration, right, Greg? And we created just a little scenario for Greg to pretend he's entering here. And the first one is Greg's just going to show you, probably don't need to show this, most of you I think are pretty comfortable with Excel, that Greg will enter his name on the front page and just show you that then auto-populates along with other information on each slide. So Greg, if you just go ahead, I don't know if you're going to do a pseudonym or just write your own name in here. He's going to write a couple of things in. So Greg, I didn't tell you this, but you're going to be a family therapist today. But we don't need to, I think that's probably enough, Greg, in terms of time, and just click over to any of the tabs. And this will just demonstrate another thing here is, so Abrazos is entered there, and Greg Moore over on the right-hand side. So you just see that things are populated. As we said, we have all of the days that span this time study across as tabs on the bottom, starting from a Sunday. So just a little reminder that if you're like most of us working 5 days a week, but so your day doesn't start on that Sunday, just you'll be starting on the 15th. And then if you happen to enter it on on the wrong day, it's really not the worst thing. We would prefer that time be entered on the actual days that you do it, but if you happen to do a couple of days, don't worry about having to re-enter them on the correct day. But try to have the days match the actual days that you work, particularly when it is weekend work. We want to make sure that that's captured just for the data collection purposes. So with that, I think we're going to just demonstrate, and then I think Greg will do a brief summary, and then we'll move into questions. So Greg, I'm going to have you pretend that you're entering today as a family therapist, but let's start the day. We'll just say that's this session or this activity starts at 10 o'clock. So you'll see that Greg will enter the hour and zeros for the top of the hour. And this is 10 o'clock in the morning. And then this activity is going to take half an hour, and it's actually going to be a travel to the family's home. So Greg's going to enter 10 to 10:30. Obviously, you'd enter if it's 25 minutes, or it's 45 minutes, or it's 10 minutes. You'd be entering the time you left for the travel, or if it's prep time, the time you started your prep, or that you were doing data entry. So you'll see there in the gray that it's populated both the time and the duration. And this is going to be an indirect activity. So you'll see right there in the green columns that because Greg has selected that it's an indirect, he's entering travel. So Greg, if you could scroll over, it has blacked out or grayed out the green columns so that he wouldn't inadvertently put something in there. And then we picked an easy one. This is travel. I don't think there's any. So it's not commuting time. If you commute to an office, if people still do that in 2022 post-pandemic, I guess some people commute. This is not your commuting time. This is your travel to a setting in the community, and no need for a comment here. So then, if we scroll back over, then Greg's going to enter that. Then from 10:30 to 11:30, he was actually providing a direct service. Now, one thing just to point out, you can cut and paste from one cell to the other. So if you are a family therapist and you're providing family therapy all day, you can cut and paste, Control-C or copy from up above in the menus. We do ask, although we think we've protected the sheet, so this can't happen. So Greg's going to enter this as a direct service, and this is family therapy in the family's home. Yeah, family therapy, counseling, and home visits. It's in the home. It doesn't really matter what county you select, Greg. The Chavez County, if my memory serves, that's Roswell and surrounds. Am I right? And this is an individual service, and not a bilingual service was not used at that time. So you see, each line takes a bit of time. You'll get faster at it, I'm sure. Like I said, you can cut and paste. Could you just demonstrate that with the service, Greg? You do have to cut and paste it into each line. So Greg's going to just copy and then paste. What I started to say is, for those of you that do know Excel, you can usually grab the bottom right-hand corner and drag it down. That really causes some things with on the back end, and we ask that you don't do that. We think we've protected it. We'll do one last check before it's done. The other thing just to point out in terms of data entry, and we are also seeing if there's a way to do this. Greg, could you just do, I think it's method or actually method, yeah. So enter transdisciplinary team. So you see what happens there. When you select a descriptor like transdisciplinary team approach to transdisciplinary team consultation, you'll see it covers the next cell. And it looks like, oh no, I can't enter the next cell. But if you could just click, Greg, into, what is that, Q11, Q12, you'll see that then the drop down opens for that cell, and it still allows you to enter. And then the number of characters are then limited. They're all still there, of course, but the cell will only display not the full descriptor, but a modified descriptor. So we don't think there's a way around that. It's just a way for data entry that you see the full descriptor before you select it. It just holds there for a little bit until you go into the next cell. But want to make sure people don't freak out when they see, oh my gosh, I can't enter into the next cell. So Greg, I think that's it that we wanted to demonstrate. Is there anything that you can think that we missed?
No, sir, I think that's good.
Great. I want to make sure that we have time for questions, and I know you have a little wrap up, and then we're coming towards the top of the hour.
Yes, sir. So, Andy, do you want to go through these quickly? I think we've touched on all of them. They'll be available in the broader resources which are available to folks.
Yeah, I think so. I would suggest we move to question and answer to make sure people feel like they get their answers.
Yeah, absolutely. So y'all, you'll see here, there's just some tips and tricks and things like that, things that you can read on your own, many of which we've covered today already. Key takeaways, these are, I can summarize them real quick. All practitioners should participate, both employees and independent contractors. Please only record your time spent either directly providing or in support of early intervention services. There you see how you get a hold of us if you have questions, and don't forget about our office hour sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays during that 3-week period. Next steps are things that we've already discussed, and so I'll skip that so that we make sure that we allow enough time for Q&A. Here, this is the timeline again for the time study itself. You can see important dates and times there listed on the calendar for the trainings, the office hours, as well as the time study period. And with that, we're going to stop now so that we can answer any questions that you all have. So if you would, please click the raised hand reaction in Teams, or type your question into the chat, and we'll be glad to answer them.
And Greg, there are a couple of questions in the chat already. That two of them I think can be, one was just kind of a tip, the Control-V function, the Control-C for copy, Control-V for pasting. The fill down, I think, though, is one that I clarified is something we're asking folks not to do, and I don't think is available. To be able to actually pull that value down into the cells that you select below. So I think that won't happen. The second question is, if you serve one county, I think this is also kind of thinking about how to enter data efficiently. Unfortunately, no, if you're only working in one county, you do have to enter that each time. We do think that control copy paste, once you have it in the paste or in the copy, you should be able to paste it each time. But that's not something we were able to, because some people will work in multiple counties and some people not. We couldn't format that in a way that for those people that only serve one county, it would auto-populate for every line. And another question, Greg, do you want me to keep going through these?
Yeah, you take that next question, then I can jump in and help alternate with you. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah. So the next one's about jury duty. I think this is a great one just because it illuminates, when you're off, you're off. If you're not, now if you're on leave and, well, jury duty, that's interesting. Now I have to think about that. That's another typical leave. Is it like paid time off? But it is probably time you're getting. If you're getting paid by the agency, let me say it that way, we do want to know that you're on paid leave at that time. If the question is more about not how do you document it, but if you're on leave during this whole time, you wouldn't need to be part of the cost study during that 3-week period if it's going to be that long. But generally the answer is if you're on paid leave, we do want you to enter that. If you are on unpaid leave, or my examples earlier where you don't work mornings, or you take flex your time and you take 2 hours off in the afternoon to serve families in the evening, then you don't have to write down what you were doing, or that you were on leave for that 2 hours, or you were not working in mornings. I hope I haven't contributed to confusion there.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. The next question there from Catherine is that when we finish visits for the day, do we document that time as well? So let's say that you're doing your visits early in the day, and then you come back to your office and you're sending some emails or doing some report writing, things of those natures, then yeah, you can absolutely capture that time. Some of those indirect activities, the emails, the report writing, some of that stuff, it's captured within those drop down lists. And so anything that is not, then you would be able to enter other and include a note like Andy said. But yeah, if you're working for the day, then the work that you're doing, go ahead and capture it in the time study tool. Scott, I noticed an option for telehealth under location and method. If I provide individual development instruction via telehealth, do I mark telehealth under method and location? So you would only enter it in the location, and then the method would be individual.
Greg, this may be one we want to follow up with the ECECD. I believe that the guidance and documentation changed July 1st, and so we've aligned our tools to capture telehealth as a method.
As a location. Sorry. Hi, everyone. This is Leah. I can clarify this, I think. Sorry to interrupt.
Please do. That'd be wonderful.
So you're right, Andy. We changed something very recently in mid-July. This will launch in Fit Kids, but for the purpose of the time study, we are trying to capture telehealth as a location. So you would enter it as a location, and method would be individual. I know it's been different for all the beginning of time, but I think that's probably why it's listed as both in here.
Well, I'm not sure that it is, so we will have to make sure that the tool is accurate too.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure that when the tool goes out, that's accurate and maybe some guidance. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take that out of the. I see now where Scott, the question came from, and thanks, Leah, for that clarification. Certainly, things did change, so we will remove telehealth from the drop-down list for the method, so that to prevent confusion there. And then we could even add some clarifying comments in some of the instructions and things that go out. Katie, if my first activity of the day is a visit, traveling from my home to the visit would be considered commute or traveling time to a visit. I think that could, Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, like if there's, or Leah, if your agency has specific rules against this, but I would say that if you're traveling to the home for a visit, then that would be, you would record that as commute time.
Oh, I was sorry, Greg, to contradict you. I was actually gonna say, and we can make sure it's clear in the FAQs, that I believe that if you were going to actually do a visit, it would actually be travel time to see the family. It would only be commute if you were office-based or location-based and you travel to that setting, and that's where you work for the day. So we'll make sure we state that correctly in the FAQs. But are you feeling, Greg, that makes sense?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Andy. You said what I was thinking. I just miscommunicated. The next question has to do with temp or on-call employees. Are we asking if they should participate in the time study, Amanda? Or Andy, if that question makes sense to you, I don't want to answer it in the wrong way. I think that for whether it's a full-time or part-time employee or a subcontractor, if they're providing early intervention services, then we want them to participate in the time study.
Greg, this is Leah.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Yep.
Okay. How do we get the time study tools? It's a great question, Barbara. What will happen is that by later this week, certainly after the last training, we will send the final Excel time study tool to the time study champions. I will include the agency directors on that communication as well. And then the champions will then distribute that to all of the practitioners in their agency. So we, PCG, are going to send it to our champions and the providers agency leadership, and then they will send it to you all as the practitioners. And that will be coming later this week. Karen's asking about, you stated to complete 10 consecutive days. If your work days are not consecutive, can you complete 1 week, then wait a week when you were on vacation and enter another week? Absolutely. That's one of the reasons that we allowed the 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks. Sometimes these time studies are only 2 weeks, but we recognize that folks were on vacation. And so certainly, let's say that you're working next week, you record your time then the middle week you're on vacation, then absolutely you could come back and then record your vacation the following week. There's no restriction on that. The consecutive days is really to help you all, I think, make it simpler that if you have 10 consecutive days that you're working, go ahead and capture those. If not, or if you don't work 10 days during that period, then just record the time that you are working. Olivia, if my work days are Monday through Friday, but I also spend time on Sundays prepping for the week, should I record a Sunday or just my full work days? If you are providing services or, doing activities that are, related to supporting early intervention services on Sunday or Saturday, then by all means, go ahead and record those. And I will say that, so we're asking for the 10 days, but the more data that we have, the better, obviously. And so it's okay that if you wanted to complete all 3 weeks of the tabs, then you certainly can, though we want to make this as easy on you as possible. But I think weekends are a good example of where I think that's useful data for us. And so if you have, even if it's just a little bit of time that you're working on the weekends, go ahead and record that so that we can capture it. If you do not currently have access to Excel, could you use Google Sheets? And Andy or Margot, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe so the time study tool is functional, compatible with Google Sheets as well as Apple Numbers. One of the things is that for us and for your champion is that we will need it sent back to us in an Excel format. I'm remembering that correctly, right, Andy?
That's right. And Margot clarified that with me before the call. So yeah,
okay.
I feel pretty confident in that.
Randy asks, are all forms turned in when the staff person completes all the days they work during the cost study period? Excellent question, Randy. So yeah, so what you all are going to do as practitioners is that you're going to get your workbook, you're going to start recording your time, and then you're going to save that on your computer, and then you're going to go back into that every day and enter your time. And then you won't submit that to your time study champion, and they won't submit it to us until all of those are complete. So you're not going to have to go in and submit it every day or anything like that. For us as PCG, what we'll be looking for is that the agency, so the champions or your supervisor, however your agency is handling it, they will collect everybody's time study tools, and then they will send it to us in a batch, or the aggregate for the full team. But absolutely, folks will save this on their own, and then they don't turn it in until they've documented all their time for the time study.
Greg, in the interest of time, I'll take the next two if that's okay.
Please do.
How do we identify the county of travel when we're traveling through several counties or multiple counties? And I know for some of the statewide providers like New Mexico School for the Deaf, but even some others might be in that situation. I think the answer there would be the county where the family resides. So even if you start in one county and travel to the next, or go across, in this example, several counties, just list the county where the family resides. And then the next one, I think we answered Sharon Guildstaff. Thanks for the shout out earlier. But this one, I think we did answer based on another question. If the practitioner is going straight from their home to the visit, that they would count that as travel to the visit, not commute time. So
I also just want to make one quick clarification, Andy, on that travel time answer. So when you're the question is, how do we identify county for travel time if we're traveling through multiple counties? We're actually only asking for county of the direct service. And so that's what Andy means by the county that the direct service takes place in. For the actual time that you spend traveling to or from that session, we don't need to know every county that you cross through, and there actually isn't not a drop down for that particular indirect service on travel. Just the direct service, we want to know which county it took place in. And if it's telehealth, it's the location is telehealth.
Okay, thanks, Margot.
All right. I appreciate you all for hanging on 10 minutes longer. I'm sorry that we went over, but these have been great questions. Andy or Margot, did we miss any questions that we want to answer? And I will say that if there are additional questions, that we'll go back through the chat. If there's anything that we didn't get to, we will make sure that that's included in the frequently asked questions document that's going to go out, that'll be provided to all champions, and we'll update that regularly too. So for this training, we'll capture the questions that you all have had. The next training will capture their questions, and then the final training we will, and then we'll make sure that you all get updated versions of that document so that you can see all of the frequently asked questions that we receive and the answers to those.
There are just a handful more questions. I'm gonna quick fire answer them for you guys. So one is how do we access this video after we leave this meeting? This will be a part of the resources that gets sent to your champions, and eventually there will be a website that your champions will share with you, and you can access it at any point to rewatch or if you have a question. The next question, if I see a non-EI client and then right after I see an EI client, do I enter both or just the EI client? We are focusing in on just early intervention services here. So you would not enter the time that you're spending with that non-EI client, as well as you would not enter the time that you spent prepping for the non-EI client or any of those other report writing things, just early intervention services, direct service and indirect services there. And then you do not need to attest after each day, just at the end of the study, after you've gone through your quality assurance check, making sure everything kind of in the right place and filled out completely, then you'll attest to the document and send it over to your champion, who will also look at it and attest to it and say, this makes sense for what this person's role is. A couple more came in. Please explain again the days that should be entered on the cover sheet. On the cover sheet, there are check boxes for the dates, and you'll just tell us at the end of the time study period which dates you filled out information for. That's a quick litmus for us to say, okay, this person works Monday through Friday and they worked 2 Saturdays, let's say. So you would just, any day that you entered at least one activity, you would select the date for that checkbox. And then, is there an option for providing training to EI agencies on the indirect services? So it sounds like this person has a training role as part of their a training aspect to their role. There is a training option under the indirect services in that yellow category that you can select once you've identified that it's an indirect service.
All right, thank you, Margot. And my list is updated. Thank you for covering those. I didn't see those last few questions initially, so I appreciate you covering those. I'm not seeing any more. So with that, again, we appreciate you all's time today. We appreciate you all participating in the time study itself. We'll be sending out additional resources, including the link to the website that will house everything. But we thank you kindly, and we look forward to receiving your time study tools once you've had a chance to enter them. And please don't hesitate to reach out with questions. So with that, we hope that you all have a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you all again soon.
Thanks, everybody.